Welcome to a special edition of The Tea with April. And this time we have a guest who's been here before. He sipped the tea and knocked the pot over. We have none other than former Obama Education Secretary Arne Duncan. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, April. Thanks so much for having me. How are you doing?
I'm, I'm gonna be honest with you. Not as great as we could be. And I say
Yep,
we communitively.
yeah, that's real. That's very real.
Yeah,
Very real.
particularly in Chicago, your town, where you play basketball and do all sorts of things still. Talk to me of what's on the ground in Chicago, particularly when it comes to education.
Well, I'm going to start with ICE because that's what's happening in our town, and it's
Yes.
impacting everything, including education, because kids aren't
Mhm.
coming to school. April, for your listeners, for your viewers, I can't overstate how bad things are in Chicago with ICE. They are breaking up families. They are separating children from their mothers. They are arresting the lady who sells tacos, the man who sells tamales. They are just a gang. They are Trump's private gang that is unchecked, unfettered, and the amount of stress and trauma is just, it's staggering, April. The images coming out of there, coming out of our city are just horrific. They're hanging out at the local high school right by my house now. I have no idea why they're doing that. And it's devastating. What they did to the apartment building at South Shore on 75th Street, they had a helicopter above the apartment building. They had guys rappelling out of the helicopter. They landed a helicopter on top of the apartment building. Can you imagine? Middle of the night, took kids out in zip ties, flashbangs, and they said they got 20 gang members or whatever. And April, you know why I know they're lying? Because they showed no guns. I work with gang members every day. They have guns. They would have had a whole table full of guns. So what they basically did is they arrested and attacked a whole bunch of hardworking Venezuelans, African Americans. It's a mixed building. And can you imagine being dragged out at 3 in the morning?
African Americans too. Now, it was supposed to, and it doesn't make it right with anyone, but it's supposed to be migrants, illegal migrants, or those who have, well, migrants who have overstayed visas or have not gone through the immigration process, let's say that, and those who they have found have criminal histories. But now they're going into African American communities, pulling people as well. This is out of control, but you said something so poignant and so real. You said Trump's gang. I've always called him the gangster that went political, but Trump's gang, ICE is Trump's gang. You hit the nail on the head. Let's go back to the school part. And thank you for giving us the lay of the land. It sounds like something you would see in a movie, right? It sounds like something you would see in a movie, but it's real. The reality is in Chicago, it's ground zero. It left Los Angeles, but now it's Chicago. I don't think there's a coincidence that ICE is near your home. Do you?
Yeah, I have no idea, but I'll just say you have kids who are too scared to go to school. You have people not showing up. You have parents that can't take their kids to school anymore. And these are people who are hardworking. They're paying taxes. They've lived here all their life. They are no threat to our community. In fact, they are the fabric of our community. And to somehow depict them as the enemy is just beyond dishonest.
So you said you live near a schoolhouse. Give us the scene that you see
Yeah.
every morning near the schoolhouse.
Yeah, and I'm not out there every morning, but this is Kenwood High School. I live in Hyde Park. It's 5 blocks from where I live, and they've been sort of stationed out there for the past week or so. The little pizza place where my wife and I go, Pizza Capri, they've taken out the guy who served there for forever. And these are not threats. It's just the most heartbreaking thing. They are not threats. These are productive members of our community. Chicago's a third white, third black, third Latino. That's always been the beauty of our city, was the great
A melting
diversity,
pot. A melting pot.
a total melting pot. And these guys are the opposite of threats. And I worked, as you know, to reduce gang violence every day. They've come a long way, have a long way to go. But this is a gang unlike anything we have ever seen in our lifetimes. And I don't know, April, how this movie ends. It is a horror movie right now. It is despicable. It is disgusting. And I don't know if we, win or lose. We're fighting every day, but this hangs, our future hangs in the balance here.
What happens when kids don't show up to school? There's truancy after so many days. and the school system comes after them, is it the school system or will it be ICE? Because they can be pulled in any direction for anything now because they are not showing up for school.
Yeah, I mean, the school system's not going to come after them, but obviously, you know this, April. You have kids like kids don't go to school; they can't learn. They have no ability to learn, and you just don't have kids not going to school. You have people not showing up for work. You have people not able to pay their rent now. I mean, the ripple effects of this: restaurants closing down, businesses closing down. I mean, the economic impact, let alone the human impact, is horrific. But if kids, do we want kids in the shadows of our country, or do you want them educated and productive members? And we're just marginalizing already the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, and it's to whose benefit? It's to whose benefit? I can't fathom that.
My heart is broken. And I want to almost cry, and I cannot cry. The condition of our country right now is something that we never thought we'd see. And the little people, the least of these, the ones who really rely on us, they're terrified from the gang, from Trump's gang. Um, Education, again, special ed unit has been cut out of the Department of Education. Why do that when the Department of Education was really meant to help the least of these, right?
Well, I mean, they don't do anything by accident. So, for them, cruelty is always the point, and they always attack the most vulnerable. Bullies always attack the most vulnerable first. So, whether it's children with special needs, like you're talking about, whether it's English language learners or students who live below the poverty line, that's who they're always going to attack. And this is part of a larger effort, not just to dismantle the Department of Education, but to undermine education in our country. Why? Because educated folks are a threat to an autocratic leader. This is part of them. This is much bigger than education. This is an attempt to, have one source of truth, and where people can think critically, when they can think for themselves, when they can discern information from misinformation. That's a threat to an authoritarian leader. And there was heartbreaking, April, is, we have millions of children across the country who have special needs. Some of their parents might happen to vote Republican. Some of their parents might vote for, a Democrat. It doesn't matter. We got to look out for our babies. And dismantling the Department of Education is part of this larger plot to dismantle our democracy. And when you pick, which is what Trump always does, when you pick someone look like Linda McMahon, who was wildly underqualified, zero qualification, she thought, AI, artificial intelligence, she called it A1. She thought it was a
That's
steak
right.
sauce. I mean, she literally had no clue on the most revolutionary thing that happened in such a long time. What he does across the board is he always picks people who are completely incompetent for the job, and they know they're incompetent. They know that. But what it means is they have blind loyalty to him. They are only there not because of their expertise, not because of their knowledge, not because of their commitment, but because he put them there. And so that's all he cares about is blind loyalty. And the more ignorant, your cabinet members can be,
Mm.
the more they're going to be loyal to you because they know they don't belong. And she's exhibit A for that, colossal incompetence.
The president is mediocre. As you said, Linda McMahon thought AI, artificial intelligence, was A1 learning. And they are attacking critical thinking, as you said. Being able to think for yourself and not having to rely on a mediocre person who talked about putting a flashlight in your body and drinking some kind of liquid to eradicate COVID. That's who we're talking about, the President of the United States and his attack on education. And going back to something that you said, I can't help but think about what Bryant Gumbel, the interview Bryant Gumbel did in 1989. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know if you saw that interview, but the interview with Bryant Gumbel where he said, the interview where he said, Trump said that Black men and women that are highly educated are more of a problem for him because they get jobs over the white men and women who are highly educated. So education has been his issue with this country for a long time.
No, that's exactly right. Obviously, Trump has been a racist forever. His daddy was a racist, and that this white nationalist agenda is part of it. But April, this, knowledge is power. There's a reason that slaves were killed or threatened with death if they learned to read.
Yeah.
There's a reason why across the globe, girls are denied access to education. it terrifies those who are authoritarian leaders, because people who can seek their own truth don't rely on a dictator and authoritarian leader to tell them their version of the truth. And so Trump is not original. There's nothing new in this playbook. We've seen it for centuries in our country. We see it across the globe now. But what is obviously extraordinarily scary is that he's executing this playbook really, really well. And we have to push back. We have to resist. We were out there, Sunday at the Saturday at the No Kings rally. That was amazing. In Chicago, we had 100,000 strong, over 7 million. But I keep
Were
telling
you out
folks, hey,
there?
I was out there, my wife, our friends. But I keep telling folks, well, this is not a drill. This is not practice. This is reality. And we either are going to face this and resist it and sacrifice for our democracy and sacrifice for education and sacrifice for children and sacrifice for our special needs kids, or we're going to have a country that is truly unrecognizable for a long time. And that's the battle we're in right now. I wish that wasn't true, but I'm always just going to be honest. That's exactly where we are as a nation.
We have a president that's vulgar and ignorant. Let's just say that. He was very upset by the numbers in Chicago, Boston, New York, Philadelphia. He watched. And then after that, he was piloting a jet in an an A1 video. He was piloting, I know what Linda McMahon calls A1. I need to let people know I know what AI means. He was piloting a jet with an AI video with King Trump on the side. He had a crown. He was piloting a jet and it was going over a crowd of people, including a Democratic strategist or somebody who's really high on social media. And he let feces, excrement go on the crowd. That's ignorant. That's vulgar. From a president of the United States. That's mediocre thinking, no critical thinking, someone who's insecure, narcissistic, racist, all of that.
Yeah, we'll never see anything like it, and hopefully won't again. But whether it's that, whether it's the press secretary getting the question and asking where the idea came from, and she answers your mama. I mean, it's insane, and that gets parroted. And I just think, April, like we're all imperfect, but I can just say we tried our best to be good role models for kids, and to be people that kids could look up to and aspire to be and want to be like. And the fact that, does anyone want their child learning from this kind of behavior, speaking like this? It's unfathomable to me. And it's the only explanation is it's a cult-like mentality where it doesn't matter what the cult leader does, we will follow him without question. This is not people who are thinking for themselves, which again goes back to, takes our conversation full circle. They can no longer think for themselves because they just follow the cult leader wherever he takes them and wherever his team takes them. But all of this is, we've never seen it ever in our nation's history. And I pray we never see it.
Your mama used to be a thing that you did with the dozens, right? And we've learned to stop that. Don't do that. I mean, that was Black exploitative television, your mama. They tell a joke. But this white woman who has a wealthy husband standing at the podium, the mouthpiece of the president of the United States, behind a podium that's supposed to give the world information about what the president is thinking. And you say your mama, because you cannot come up with the words to finish a statement that is critical to America. Your mama.
I actually think it's worse than that. It is.
Oh my God.
These are not people who are going to give up power. And what they're demonstrating is they could, care less about norms, about, being role models. All they care about is pure raw power. And they just feel that power and they feel they're untouchable. That power right now is seductive, it's addictive. Cruelty is always the point. They know that was exploitative. They know exactly what they're doing. That was not a lack of things to say. That was, let's just do something to throw it in
That's a
people's
street
face.
fight. That's a street fight back in the day. That's a street fight. That's a street fight.
We are in a street fight for our democracy, and we're going to come together and win together, or they're going to pick us off, one by one. And so it is uncomfortable. It is scary. And I deal with, as gang violence in Chicago. And I'm not one of those guys. I'm honestly, April, I'm scared every day. I'll be real honest. I'm trying to make sure I get home every night. And I'm scared now, but you either let that fear paralyze you or you push through it. And we have to overcome our fear and use it to motivate us to say we want something better for our kids, for our country, for our families, for our community. And this is the ultimate test. I wish you weren't here, April, but here we are and we got to handle it.
I'm going to tell you this, and I'm gonna share this. I'm scared too, but it's fight or flight, and I think you're fighting, and I thank you for your fight. And I'm fighting in the best way I can by telling the truth and shaming the devil with people like you here on the T. And the last thing, you're fighting with a new documentary. Talk to me about this documentary. It starts off with you doing something you love in the silhouette of you shooting basketball, and then you're talking to people who are trying to help stop the killing, stop the crime. Talk to me about this documentary.
Yeah, I've run a small nonprofit called Chicago CRED for the past 9 years, and it was amazing. This group found out about us. They have a series called How to Change the World that I think is focused on 8 or 9 different groups across the globe. And they happen to get interested in our work and come film. They did a remarkable job. And it's actually, we have so far to go, April, but our violence is down. This summer, we had our safest summer in 60 years. We may have
Mm,
our safest year in 60 years. It makes it all the more important and ironic that Trump is running around saying how violent Chicago is. We have never been safer in 6 decades. So we're not done yet. This is not mission accomplished. But what we would do at Chicago CRED is we work with the young men and women most at risk of shooting or being shot. We give them a pathway out of that. We have life coaching. We have clinical help with high school, get their high school degrees, high school diplomas, some going to college. And then we have a job training program. What I always say is, people say it's nice to give people a second chance. I think in many cases, we're actually giving a first chance, that every
mhm.
institution in their lives failed them, families, community, church, schools, whatever. And we're giving them a chance, an off ramp to those cycles of violence. And it's extraordinary to see the leadership they're providing. And our work is hard. Honestly, it's traumatic. It's very difficult. But the joy of my job, the unbelievable joy, is watching this transformation, not overnight, but over time with our participants. And they are leading Chicago to a safer place. What's most important to me, April, is not just that violence is down, but arrests are also down. So it's not like we're arresting our way out. We're not incarcerating our way out. It's basically we have a lot fewer people shooting, and that's where you want to be. And so we're not done yet, but we're so incredibly proud of the collective progress and the choices our young men and women are making.
Yeah. And you nailed it when you said crime is down in Chicago. Crime is down in a lot of these major cities, but President Trump wanted to send the military, and he wants to be a dictator. He wants to follow that old European rule that has been overturned. He wants to make people fearful of him. You can't be fearful of somebody who's mediocre that you see on the street. Game peeps game, you know. But here's the bottom line. You're right. Donald Trump used he wanted to get in, he wanted to bring the troops in, the National Guard troops in on crime. He couldn't do that. So guess what? He came in the other way through immigration, and now trying to topple with crime that's not there. So it's bait and switch, it's smoke and mirrors. It's Donald Trump, golden era. Thank you, Arnie Duncan.
Thank you so much, and keep fighting the fight. You're amazing. So appreciate your leadership and your
I
courage.
appreciate you, but you know what? One thing, if we would have gotten the word out like we had planned a couple of years ago, because we kept saying we needed civics back in the schools so people could understand this is not how government works. During the first term, Arnie Duncan and I were talking about that, and we kept talking about civics is important. And I said civics was important because of freedom of the press, because how I was being attacked. The First Amendment has freedom of the press, right? And if we would have learned the truth about how government is and what democracy is like, you would understand what a patriot is, because a patriot actually reveres and looks at the Constitution, not something else called Project 2025. They don't police American citizens because they know that's posse comitatus and that's illegal. If people understood how the government worked, that's one of my regrets. That's one of my regrets that we didn't have that chance to really do that.
We have to keep pushing, but obviously he's controlling the education system in so many states now. But all we can do is keep working. And that civics education, as you know so well, is so critically important. And again, the ability to think critically, to think for yourself, to understand our democracy, understand the founding fathers, understanding checks and balances and what that is
Yes.
supposed to be. We have to educate. We have to fight our way out of this. We have to non-violently fight. I want to be clear,
Mhm.
non-violently resist. But ultimately, we have to way increase the level of education and the range of things we're teaching. And civic education has to be part of this. And this is a dark, dark time in our history. History will not treat us kindly, but we have to learn from it. And the only way to do that is through education.
Arnie Duncan, Thank you so much. Former Obama Education Secretary Arne Duncan, he's the man. He's the man. He's still playing basketball, working nonprofits, and trying to find peace in the midst of the storm to fight for us in education and your city of Chicago. Thank you, Arne Duncan.
Thank you so much, April. Have a great day.
You
Appreciate it.
too. Be well.